shark itself, but this chastity belt it has on. And so you don't want to try cutting into that with your regular scissors because it's just going to be, probably be just too hard for you to get through. So these larger scissors I have up here, the blunt sharps, are a bit more powerful, and you can get through that like so. Alright, but for cutting into the shark itself, your own scissors will probably be fine. And of course, a lot of the work's already been done for you when they open the animal up. So as you follow along the linea alba towards the coracoid bar, oh, these scissors. There we go. Try to keep your tying up as you go. Don't go as far as the coracoid bar, you don't need to go up any higher. And you do your transverse incisions a little below that. And then working your way down, now you're going to have a little bit more of a challenge, depending on your animal. Like Alexis's is pretty much open almost as far as we want to go. So we just do our transverse incisions here, which are going to be a little challenging because we're going to cut through the skin too. So that's going to be a little harder. This animal's going to be tough to work with. See how it's got like a yellowish haze to it? That means the yellow latex burst out of one of the blood vessels. And so we're going to have this kind of sticky, as you can see on my fingers there, this kind of stuff. You're going to be really careful not to get this on yourself. Once it's on there, it's really hard to get it out of your clothes. But when you're working down here, you may want to just tuck the body wall under the fins. Give yourself a little room of work. You can also take dissecting needles and standard needles, pins to anchor this back. When we went in here, we damaged a blood vessel on each side. We had to. But this blood vessel that should be blue instead of green, you also see it here, that's the lateral abdominal. It runs from the pelvic girdle to the pectoral girdle. Really easy to identify. Even an animal that's been cut like this, you can see it pretty well. So now we can begin to look at some of the organs. Again, a lot of the stuff is obscured by yellow latex, and they damaged the liver when they did that. So this is the liver. It should not look as chewed up as this. This is the right lobe. It should extend down to about here. It's been damaged because of the latex blow up. Get a better feel for that when you look at the left lobe here and the size of it. And then our median lobe is here, and you'll notice that there's a little, what looks like empty balloon-like region here, which is the gallbladder. Okay, so yeah, this is really nasty. You're going to have to spend a little time wiping that out. Luckily, paper towel will do the work for you. Blood vessels are really thin here, so you can't do much. Basically, just rip the peritoneum away from around them so you can see those blood vessels more easily, but you can't clean them. All right? They're just either you see them or you don't, kind of like it was with some of the rat blood vessels, but you don't nearly have as much fat. Here's the stomach coming all the way down. This is the cardia down to the body, and then our pylorus here. And there's 2 food items in here. It's kind of interesting about sharks and mud puppies, since they're predatory wild caught, you never know what you're going to find in there. Or who. Just joking. Here you can see the spleen. Here's one of the 2 lobes of the pancreas. This is the ventral lobe. The little yellow blood vessel right in front of it, right here, is the anterior splenic. And then, of course, we see some blood vessels here, which we'll worry a little bit more about later. But back here, it's so much this icky latex, it's going to be really hard to see a lot of stuff. But like down here, we have our intestine. This portion has the spiral valve in it. You can tell that because of these blood vessels. Each of these artery and vein pair are running on a spiral valve. These are called the annular arteries and veins, because like the annuli in a tree. Here we see the anterior intestinal artery and vein. Back here will be the posterior intestinal vein, and over here the artery. You're going to have a little trouble with color because of that latex blowout, unfortunately. And all the way back here we see this little thing. That's the rectal gland. Osmoregulatory structure. For some reason, every semester someone says it's the penis. They also call it the liver the lungs. Try not to be that person. I think I know who it's going to be. So this is a little hard to see because everything is nasty on this animal. But back here is the kidney. It's like a ribbon running along the body wall. In the center we have our dorsal aorta. On either side we should see blue, which is the posterior cardinal vein. And actually, this animal does show it on the outside of the kidney. We have a vein. That's the renal portal that brings blood to the kidney for processing. Let's see how, ooh, yeah, that is hideous. Ooh, what's this? So be careful. Your shark's stomach has a spine coming out of it, right there. Something it ate was spiky. You don't want to get stabbed by that. So yeah, it's hard to see stuff with all this hideous latex, but let's see if I can see a little bit more on the other side. Here we go. So this, oops, this little thing right here, that's the ovary. Your shark wasn't reproductively active at the time. She was a shark of good morals. If your shark was reproductively active, you would see an oviduct coming down to a uterus down here. But in these animals, everything regresses until it's time. And so we're not going to see the rest of that on this little guy. If you have a male shark, the testes is going to be in the same place, but a lot more solid. If your shark was reproductively active, you'll see big eggs in here. Usually they'll break through the wall of the ovary. So again, stomach, spleen, pancreas we saw. And we're not going to see much until this is all wiped out. Most of that is just literally wiping it out with a paper towel. Okay, just be careful not to stab yourself with that food item. Any questions? Okay. Sorry you got such a mess.